Good morning. It's time now for Storm Watch. There may be a few strong showers or thunderstorms cropping up later this afternoon. We'll pinpoint where coming up in just a moment. But first of all, let's check out the tropics. And at this point, let's show you the very latest regarding Hurricane Isaac. Still a very, very powerful hurricane. Isaac is not as strong as what it was yesterday when it peaked out with winds of 140 miles per hour. But still, this is a very powerful hurricane, a very strong Category 3 hurricane with winds of 125 miles per hour, roughly centered 530 miles east-southeast of Bermuda, and still moving off in a northerly fashion. Now, we do foresee that Isaac will continue to move off in a northerly direction, perhaps turning a little bit more towards the north and northeast. And that would be the best case scenario because that would keep it a long ways away from any land masses. The forecast right now is indicating that Isaac will stay well to the east of the lower 48 and also well to the east of the island of Bermuda. But elsewhere we have another hurricane, Hurricane Joyce. This one too very strong, very powerful with winds of 85 miles per hour. This one moving off towards the west-southwest fairly quickly at about 14 miles an hour. Here's another perspective of Hurricane Joyce. And the forecast with this one indicates further strengthening is possible. And over the next couple of days or so, this may eventually impact the Lesser Antilles. So we're really keeping very close eyes on Hurricane Joyce and its potential impact on the islands. And there's yet again another tropical system, this one Tropical Depression number 15, which has recently formed just off the coast of Honduras. It has winds of 35 miles per hour and not moving very quickly so far. But over time, there's a chance that this tropical system will start to turn more towards the north, and as it does pull away from the land, we'll likely see some strengthening with this, and perhaps this tropical depression may become our next tropical storm. There's a possibility that this could strengthen even to a hurricane status over the next couple of days. So we're watching that also very, very closely. Back into the Gulf, some scattered showers and storms forming over the southern Gulf. And across the eastern Pacific, more showers and storms forming right along the coastal area. Very disorganized, but some slow development may be possible later this weekend. Now let's shift gears. We'll head back to the lower 48 and checking out the possibility for a few strong thunderstorms. And with that, here's Rick.
Well, it's
Good afternoon, and on this Friday afternoon we have a tropical system in the western Caribbean that continues to get stronger. Here to tell us more about it is hurricane expert Dr. John Hope.
Right you are, Jennifer, and that system in the western Caribbean is going to be designated as Tropical Storm Keith at 5 o'clock this afternoon. It's been a tropical depression, but the reconnaissance aircraft went down there this afternoon and found out indeed that a tropical storm is forming, so it will be Tropical Storm Keith. Let's have a look at that and the other systems across the ocean here. Now, at 11 o'clock today, Hurricane Isaac was centered at 32.0, 56.2 west, and that was 500 miles due east of Bermuda. Bermuda's right here. This now is moving toward the north, away from Bermuda, out over the open ocean. No more land areas in its way to affect it all. It is beginning to weaken, as we would expect it to do, because it is beginning to get over cooler water, and we could see that eye not nearly so well defined as it was even 12 hours ago. Now, our other storm we've had out here, Tropical Storm Joyce, was a hurricane this morning, and now it's been downgraded to a tropical storm, and I'll explain why that was in just a moment. It's moving toward the west at about 14 miles an hour. But what we're afraid of with this storm is that it's going to regenerate. Also, we think now it was pretty definitely going to move into the Caribbean, which means that it's going to have to move across portions of the Leeward or the Windward Islands, and we fear that it might well be a hurricane by the time it does so. Now, what happened this morning was that this center became completely exposed. That is, we didn't have any showers, the thunder showers, near the center of circulation at all. But now some are beginning to form over the center of circulation, and that tells us that this system does have a chance to strengthen. Now, it's still a couple of days away from the island, so we have a lot of time to watch it. But we're going to have to watch it very, very carefully because it might be that warnings would be required here by tomorrow or so. And so that certainly is something we're going to have to watch. Now, we're going to have to watch this one, too. This is Tropical Depression 15. That is going to be designated as Tropical Storm Keith at 5 o'clock. And at 11 o'clock this morning, it was centered 325 miles due south here of the western tip of Cuba and moving toward the north-northwest at 3 miles an hour. Now, we expect that movement toward the north-northwest to continue, accelerate a little bit, go a little faster, and move into the Gulf of Mexico. And since we think the conditions are favorable for this to get stronger, we very likely, very possibly anyway, are going to have to deal with a hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico. And as you know, once the hurricane gets in the Gulf, it's kind of landlocked up there, and it can't really get out of there without some impact on land. So that is something that we are going to have to watch most carefully, and we will. So we have three systems there altogether. We have Tropical Storm Joyce, we have Hurricane Isaac, which you don't have to worry about anymore. But our main concern from now on and our main focus is going to be on the two tropical storms, Keith and Joyce. That's it this time for the tropics. And now let's get back to Jennifer.
This afternoon, we have heavy rain coming down in through the state of Florida. We'll look up close at some radars in just a few minutes, but we want to begin this storm watch by looking at the tropics. A new tropical storm has now formed in the Western Caribbean. And as we look at the Atlantic Ocean, the Gulf of Mexico, and the Caribbean in this satellite picture, we have several features to talk about. One close to Bermuda is the Hurricane Isaac, and we'll get to that in just a few minutes. Meanwhile, closer to the Leeward and Windward Islands, we have our Tropical Storm Joyce. And as we look in the western Gulf of Mexico, this was Tropical Depression 15. It has now been upgraded to a tropical storm. I'm going to have to read you this off the paper. It is now Tropical Storm Keith. And just as of 5 o'clock this afternoon, it is located at 17.6 north, 85.2 west. That puts it about 300 miles, at least the center of the system, 300 miles just to the from the southern tip of Cuba. And it has maximum winds now up to 50 miles an hour, and it is moving to the northwest at around 3 miles an hour. Now, as we look at the Caribbean, this is the system we're watching. And with this advisory just issued, we now have hurricane watches up for the eastern portions of the Yucatan Peninsula. Now, that's the government of Mexico issuing those. And as we look in a little bit closer, this is the visible satellite picture. Right now, we see a lot of convection on the eastern side. So as of right now, the Central America and the Yucatan not getting hit that hard with a lot of rain. However, we will have to watch certainly for western Cuba and even into the Yucatan for maybe some showers and some heavy rain to come this way. This system is expected to strengthen into a hurricane, and we could be dealing with a hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico by next week, because we do think this north-northwest trend will take it out into the Gulf of Mexico. And from there, we're not quite sure what it will do, but certainly we have a lot of land across the Gulf of Mexico, so we're certainly going to be monitoring this. We also have new information in on Tropical Storm Joyce. Winds now up to 60 miles an hour, still moving to the west at around 16 miles an hour, just under 1,000 miles away from the Caribbean islands. But we certainly need to monitor this. Even though it's below hurricane status, we do think that it will strengthen into a hurricane, maybe, or at least it has the potential to do so over the next several days. And certainly we're going to continue to monitor this. As of right now, it's a rather disorganized system on the visible satellite picture, but by Sunday we could have a reconnaissance aircraft in to investigate this. Now, we left the strongest system last, and there's a good reason for that. This is Hurricane Isaac, well to the east of Bermuda. Very strong hurricane with winds up to 105 miles an hour. The reason we left it last is because it's not really going to be affecting anyone. It is, though, bringing some nice swells into Bermuda, and they could be dealing with some rip currents as well as some high tides in through that area. But we think that this is going to stay out in the Atlantic and not really be an influence other than for the shipping lanes. In the Pacific right now, we're continuing to monitor right along the coast of Mexico. A few tropical systems out there we're keeping a close eye on.